Hexagram number 39, Obstruction. We suffer from an exaggerated perception. By a change of attitude, the obstruction will melt away. We become obstructed when we fail to do the right thing for its own sake, as when we do things to have a desired effect on our situation. When we see the obstructing attitude and change it, the obstruction melts away. It furthers one to see the great man. Chief among obstructing attitudes is the tendency to regard other people or situations as hopeless, or as a given situation as dangerous, hence requiring vigorous action. Such exaggerated perceptions develop when we dwell on others, mistakes, and injustices. Being fixed on watching what others do, we seem to be compelled by all their acts to such logical conclusions as, if I don't act now, irreparable harm will be done. Or even if they did change, it would not be in time to make any difference. Or it is already too late for things to work out correctly. Such images and thoughts accompany and are a part of desire and fear. When desire and fear dominate our thinking, we cannot see with clarity. Moreover, the power of desire and fear guarantee a negative outcome. If we are able to have a beneficial effect, we must hold to the suppressed great man potential in those who err, and keep a just and moderate view of their transgressions. At the same time, we let them go and pursue their own path. By keeping our mind open, we give them the space to awaken this potential in themselves in their own time. By persevering through bad times, we give them the time they need to understand their actions. We recognize the evil of the situation, yet turn it over to the cosmos to solve. In this way, we maintain a neutral attitude that reflects as a mirror the inner truth of the situation. We do this in spite of vain or personal demands that we act forcefully, because it is in harmony with the creative and with the true needs of the moment. Receiving this hexagram acknowledges that a cloud consisting of one or more hidden emotions obstructs our view, and consequently everything is just short of working. It is the sort of obstruction from which we cannot extricate ourselves without help. To see the great man means that we need to realize the situation is beyond our best capabilities, and that we need help from the sage to find and correct the obstructing element in our attitude. With this humility, we will attract help from the cosmos to meet the needs of the situation. Changing line number 1. Retreat and await the right moment for action. This means we must retreat from feelings of resistance because of having met an obstruction. The obstruction has a good purpose. If we gain a correct perspective and hold our minds open to what we are meant to learn from it, we will find that it is ultimately to our benefit. Striving blindly ahead refers to figure things out and to taking defensive actions. We need instead to allow the difficulty to work itself out. If we are patient and persevering, the opportunity to move ahead will occur of itself. This is what it means to be activated by the light force to move ahead, and by the dark force to retreat. Here, retreat is correct. Changing line number 2. Obstruction upon obstruction. But it is not his own fault. This line reassures us that the obstructions that have occurred are not our fault. All adversity, however, gives us opportunities to enlarge and develop our attitudes and to acquire the cosmic viewpoint. Situations often force us to make judgments. It is correct and necessary to judge the matter for what it is. An error, for instance, then we let go of it. But if we allow our ego to watch for signs of changes, or if we mentally supervise and measure others' progress, or if we act to make them do what they ought to do, we prevent them from changing. We trespass against their dignity to choose the correct path of their own volition. People can do what they ought to do only if we truly leave it to them to find the correct way. We need to be aware that in disengaging, we should not go from the extreme of discarding the person to the extreme of excusing him. Such decisions and feelings vindicate and reinforce their inferiors, enabling them to crush any efforts of their superior man within. Their inferiors hasten to point out how useless it is to attempt to regain our trust and goodwill. Something their superior man would want to do. Moreover, such decisions create what the I Ching refers to in the Wanderer, Hexagram 56, as lawsuits. Their inferiors argue correctly. Who are you to cast us off as hopeless? When we initiate these subconscious wars, those we cast in the position of being an adversary begin to perform competitive and hostile acts to pay us back for our arrogance. These wars often continue for years, to everyone except those who admit they have brought them about. They seem to have no justifiable reason to exist. Because our inmost thoughts have the power to create such lawsuits and wars, we must control them. In letting others go, we must truly forgive them and keep a just and moderate view of their transgressions. Sometimes we become afraid that the situation will work out. It is important not to allow our ego to imagine an unpleasant outcome. We should not adopt any viewpoint. We should not adopt any view that might cause us to give up our goal. We need to allow the sage who knows how to make the impossible succeed to be the playwright. Changing line number 3. Going leads to obstructions. Hence he comes back. This line, related to the first line, notes an obstruction in our attitude that needs to be recognized. We are warned against telling others what to do. People must be free to return to the correct path of their own insight and volition. When we expect, demand, or presume them to do the right thing, a free and spontaneous action becomes impossible. We must truly let people go. Changing line number 4. Going leads to obstructions. Coming leads to union. Even though our cause may be just, it would be a mistake to depend on logic, for here our logic is the product of inner conflict. Trustworthy companions, help from the inner world, can be found by holding back, keeping still, and persevering until the way out shows itself. Time is the vehicle, perseverance, and precipitating force that will dissolve the obstruction. clarity cannot be attained only if we withdraw from inner conflict, come back or disengage. Changing line number 5. In the midst of the greatest obstructions, friends come. The sage comes to our aid when we persevere past all obstacles, clinging to what is right, making no defense of our own. We are helped to say the right things without having pre-thought them. Sensitivity and clarity are awakened in those who, until now, have seemed hopelessly obdurate. The friends are those intrinsically good. The friends are those intrinsically good elements within others that up to now have been shut off by fear or distrust. Without their cooperation and trust, the obstructions cannot be overcome. Changing line number 6. It furthers one to see the great man. The great man within us has turned his back on the struggle, leaving matters to our inferiors. Detachment has turned to indifference on the assumption that we are not meant to attend to the rescue. Thinking there is nothing we can do, we doubt the power of inner truth. In fact, though the matter is not out of our hands, we must return to seek the help of the sage, with whom we can deal with the matter resolutely and completely. The effort to return must be put forth even though it seems extremely difficult. The great man within us is capable not only of rescuing himself, but also of rescuing the others who depend on him. This completes Hexagram 39.